Hello, Internet. Welcome back to another JJDL video. This week, we'll be going over my week one match against someone I've known for probably a year and a half at this point. MountainMan coach of the Cerulean Edges. And yeah, let's just get right into his team. If you see in the bottom right-hand corner, you see both my team and his team. If you watch the draft breakdown, you already know my team, but his team is Gouging Fire, Terra, Thunderous T, Rillaboom, Walking Wake, Bronzong, Clodsire, Terra, Mimikyu, Torkoal, Scrafty, Sharp, and Spidops. So he is running sort of Sun team with two of the three Paradox Dragons in Walking Wake and Gouging Fire. And yeah, just on the surface, this matchup is definitely an interesting one. His fastest mon is Walking Wake at base 109 speed, which means that I have the three fastest mons in this matchup being Dragapult, Weavile, and my Terra Iron Moth, which I think gives me an advantage there. However, I also think there's a very high likelihood that Mountain Man goes a Bronzong slash Mimikyu Trick Room route. Both those mons get Trick Room, and both like Bronzong or even like a slow like Rillaboom could like be some abusers. Since Rillaboom offensively actually has pretty good matchup, and to me, the grass resists are a my Iron Moth and my Serena are really my only two grass resists. Also Dragapult too, but none of those are most. But two of those aren't very defensive, and one of them's a Serena. So yeah, uh, offensively, Rillaboom is really difficult into this matchup. Same with the Terra Thunderous. There are two slash three types I'm expecting in this matchup. Flying and water, I think, are the most likely ones. I could also see ice, but the thing with ice is ice makes you weak to be revenged by Mach Punch on Conkeldurr, which is why I think water would be better if you go that route, since though it doesn't allow you to hit Dragapult, it can still deal with the Gliscor and the pre-Terra like Iron Moth. And yeah, like if I see a Terra Water set, I'm probably expecting Thunderbolt, Terra Blast, and Sludge Wave. The other type I could see coming is Flying. My Flying resists aren't amazing. It's Empoleon and Regirock, and Empoleon doesn't want to take an electric type move, preferably. But I could be like a Waconberry, but I also can't do too much back outside of like an Ice Beam. So yeah, that's gonna be a tough situation. I'm also really expecting Scrafty to come in this matchup, just because Scrafty is their best Dragapult answer in my opinion, as well as can also help against the Scrafty, the Scrafty can help against the Weavile due to Intimidate. So yeah, those are the three mons I basically see guaranteed coming in Scrafty, Terra Thunderous, and Rillaboom. I also think there's an extremely high likelihood Bronzong comes, since Bronzong can help against the Weavile with like a Colbur set, or as well as just switch into like a Gliscor. So those are like the four I'm really expecting. Gouging Fire is probably just gonna come since it's Gouging Fire, and once he breaks down my Gliscor, that can kind of be an issue if it gets Dragon Dances. So yeah, with rounding out the team, I could see Walking Wake or the Mimikyu, as mentioned earlier, since the Mimikyu is also nice for my Conkeldurr, or just Torkoal for the Sun and Rocks and hazard removal, since Torkoal is his only hazard removal on this team. So Gliscor can stack hazards if you'd like in this matchup. But now that we've gone over his team, let's go over the six that I brought. Starting off, we got a very defensive, max HP, max defense. Of course, Toxic Orb, Poison Heal, Gliscor, with Stealth Rocks for the hazards, Protect to easily get the Poison Heal off, as well as also just like stall out Sunburns and overall heal up. Then we got U-turn for momentum and high horsepower over Earthquake for our ground stab, and a ground stab that isn't weakened in grassy terrain. Yeah, this is mainly here for gouging fire and to get up rocks. Those are really the two roles this can fill. It can also switch into like a Mimikyu if needed. However, we will have to be careful for like a Will-O-Wisp if I don't have my toxic orb procced yet. And yeah, moving on, we got our choice scarf Dragapult. I just have enough speed to outspeed, max speed, timid, uh, walking wake, and the reason for scarf is it allows me to outspeed a like booster speed protean or photosynthesis gouging uh or walking wake or just +1 gouging fire. Unless something gets up +2, Dragapult will always outspeed. And I got Dracometeor, Dragapult, Shadow Ball, U-turn, Dracometeor, Oko's, uh, almost all walking wake sets, unless it's like AV and most gouging fire sets, assuming it's not like heavily defensive. But I also got Dragon Pulse there. If one of those two is weakened, I can go for the move that doesn't have a chance to miss. I also got Shadow Ball to catch incoming like Bronzongs or Mimikyus and then just U-turn for momentum. Moving on, we got the Hatterene. This is my like staff wall in this matchup, as well as my walking wake check. I end up going Hatterene over Empoleon for that role because Empoleon can't do too much back to walking wake. It would just be flip turning out into the Dragapult, while Hatterene allows me to at least offensively put some pressure. I got Draining Kiss for overall recovery. Same with Citrus Berry. Citrus Berry allows me to live 2 specs Hydro Steams in Sun. That's why we got the Citrus Berry. I also got Dark Pulse. That's to hit the Bronzong. I'm Dark Pulse over like Mystical Fire since Dark Pulse also hits the like Torkoal well. That's really the main reason. And they got the Baton Pass plus the sassy 0 speed IVs and EVs, so I can underspeed like a Torkoal that has no speed investment either above or below. So I can get slow Baton Passes off in front of that, so it can't set up like Stealth Rocks on my Baton Pass out. And I also got Trick Room, and that can be used to set my own Trick Room or to counter their Trick Room. And just jumping over to Kelder. Kelder is kind of our trick room offensive answer in this matchup. It's just max attack, adamant guts, flame orb, drain punch, poison jab, knockoff, mock punch. Drain punch is my fighting coverage of choice. It's really nice just to stay healthy. I got poison jab there for the Mimikyu, as well as also like Rillaboom, but mainly there for the Mimikyu since that's their best Drain Punch switching since it's immune. I hit Earthquake on this for a while, but I decided to go Knockoff instead, just because I'm not expecting the Clodsire to come. I don't think Clodsire is too great in this matchup. And Knockoff is just nice to be removing items, specifically boots, like on like a Thunderous, for example, so it can start taking Stealth Rock damage, or just other items in general like can help remove like the item on like Scrafty, whatever that be, or any other mon. Uh, and then lastly is Mock Punch. There's just like revenge some things, including like the Terra Ice Thunderous if he goes that way. But moving over to Weavile, this week we got a max attack adamant Weavile triple axle knockoff throat chop and ice shard. The reason why we have both knockoff and throat chop is because knockoff into throat chop with black glasses does always KO Solber Bronzong. So the knockoff gets the item boost on the first turn. It eats, and then Bronzong eats the hit, and then it does put it in throat chop range. Since throat chop does have a higher base power when there's no item compared to knockoff. And then yeah, and I just got like triple axle for my ice coverage of choice and ice shard as another form of priority if he goes like the Terra Flying Thunderous option. And yeah, the speed is just the exactly 252 speed, no speed Uh, Adding nature does allow me to outspeed the walking wake by 1 point if he's max speed timid or jolly, I guess. But yeah, and then lastly, we got our wing pawn, which is Terra Dragon Iron Moth. Uh, the combination of Terra Dragon, Fiery Dance, and Dazzling Gleam hits his team really well across the board. I'm Booster Energy, which will boost special attack agility. So if I can get an agility up, I can really put in some work, especially if I get like the Mimikyu Disguise broken and chip on certain mons. The reason why I'm Terra Dragon is Terra Dragon allows me to still resist gl Grassy Glide from Rillaboom. Like Terra Ground would be the better, like pure offensive types. That also allows me to hit the Clodsire and Corko for super effective damage, but then I just get revenged by a Grassy Glide. So we're just the Terra Dragons. This Terra Dragon is nice into both the two pro synthesis dragons. And yeah, so that's the team we're going with. Let's just hop right into the battle. So as you see, my opponent brought the bronze on, gouging fire, thunderous, which if we start the match is terra flying, walking wake, scrafty, and rillaboom. And that's kind of what I expected, as I mentioned. Like the walking wake was the slot that I was unsure about if you wanted to go like Torkoal or like a Mimikyu. But we see the walking wake, so we have double Prosynthesis dragons with actually no sun. And as you see, I decide to lead off with Dragapult. And the reason why I decided to lead off with Dragapult is I really want to keep rocks off the field as long as I can. So I don't have any hazard removal, and I'm not running boots on my Weavile or Iron Moth. So me leading Dragapult, if he leads Bronzong trying to get rocks, it does discourage him from staying in. So if I'm a spec set, Shadow Ball does KO unless he's like super specially defensive, but he's not going to be specially defensive in this matchup since I see the Scrafty. So that's what the Scrafty will be for. And so that was the main reason why I leave Dragapult. I can also just U-turn out on most things. And as you see, he decides to lead off with the gouging fire. And we see it's booster energy attack. And this really puts me in a really good situation. So I can just click a dragon move and KO this. So he really has to respect that, which is why I see either the Bronzong or the Scrafty coming in. So I decide just to click U-turn on the switch out. My clear body does proc, which is here for the intimidate Scrafty, as well as if I see like if I had sticky webs with the Spite Ops, which I didn't really see coming, but like that was also the second thing. And I decided to go out into my Conkeldurr. I prop Flame Orb, which is really nice. Drain Punch is really free now. He doesn't have amazing Drain Punch switch-ins. However, I decided to click Knock Off instead, and that was because I didn't want the Thunders coming in. Like, and since he is a terrifying set, if he predicts my fighting move goes into Thunderous, then I'm in a really tough situation. While Knockoff does do slightly more and can remove the item, but he makes a good play. He just goes into the gouging fire. And I don't want any weird like shenanigans happening. So I just decide to stay in and just click Drain Punch as he goes for the substitute, which was actually a kind of good play on his part since the substitute stops me from like boxing it with like Gliscor. And like if he's like a more defensive set, that could actually become a bit of an issue. So at this point, I decide just to Drain Punch again. I take the Heat Crash. It does a good chunk, but I Drain Punch, recover some of that HP back off. And then as you see, he goes into Thunderous. And like this is what I expected, and it really puts me in a tough situation. Since Hatterene can take like a Terra Blast flying set and like with the Citrus Berry allows me to get back above 50% to live a second one. However, that really opens up the Walking Wake, which is really tough, especially um He's like a booster speed set. I can revenge it with the Dragapult, but it puts me in a really difficult situation. So at this point, I decide just to make the play to sack off my Kelder. I could have Mach Punch to get some chip off, but I didn't want him like setting up like an agility or something. So I just decided just to click the knockoff to hopefully remove his item, whether that's like boots or whatnot. And then at this point, I just decide to go into my Weavile, and I this really forces him out, and I decide just to click knockoff. Triple Axle was also like pretty free, but I wanted to catch the hard Bronzong if he went that route, which instead we get the Walking Wake. It loses its boots, which is really nice, and this just allows me to click knockoff again. The Scratchy does come in, and I also remove that item too, which as we see is the Assault Vest, and this just kind of gives me a free switch in my Hatterene. This thing may get like Iron Hit or something, but it really is tough. But he makes a good double in Bronzong, and I decided to just go back out into Gliscor. That's because I didn't see much of the reality of him clicking Stealth Rocks because that would be match bounced away. So I decided just to activate my Poison Orb, and we see a hard press. And that's actually pretty interesting. I was expecting a heavy slam in this matchup, but instead we got the hard press, which is a move you do not see very often. But yeah, I decide at this point I'm just gonna trade rocks, even if he gets his own rocks up. Like Iron Moth is really only ever coming once in sweep, and Weavile w- it would be unfortunate, but Weavile's probably not going to be taking any hits. It's only going to be coming in off like slow U-turns slash pawn passes to revenge. So that gives me about four switch-ins, assuming no like priority with like Grassy Glide Rillaboom. But instead we see a Trick Room, and this tips me off that it's probably weakness policy. So now I really need to be playing very careful around this. So at this point, I decide I'd scout, or I didn't really scout, but I wanted to see if he had the ice spinner, since I knew I could live one, and I just decide to slow U-turn. And I go on to Drag Bolt, and that's because without the weakness policy proccing, he cannot KO me with ice spinner. And I can just Shadow Ball, let the Drag Bolt go down, and then go straight into my Hatterene, which is slower because I am minus speed nature, no speed IVs and EVs, and just revenge with the Dark Pulse. So I just click Shadow Ball. As the Scrafty comes in, I could have maybe predicted that went for U-turn, but I didn't want to get too frisky with the Bronzong. So I then just decided to switch out to the Gliscor. Uh, this was a little bit of an overpredict. I was trying to scout to see if he had like a steel move or something with that would hit the Hattering as it comes in, but he just makes the good play and goes for Ice Punch. And my Gliscor goes down, which isn't a terrible thing. It got the rocks up and the gouging fire is dead. So it did its job, even though it was in a more unconventional way. And I just go straight out into the Hattering. And I know he doesn't want to stay in with a very tight move. So I decide just to go for the baton pass as the walking weight comes in, and that just allows me to get another kill with my Weavile. And I decide to make a prediction, even though it could have been bad if Triple Axel missed. If he went back out into Scrafty, I want to get more chip on that. But gladly, I do hit two Triple Axel hits, and the possible misplay is avoided. He just goes down to Bronzong. I know at this point he's probably clicking Trick Room, so I go back out into the Dragapult. And as I mentioned before, I live the Ice Spinner, and Shadow Ball does put it in range of Dark Pulse from Hatterene. We see the weakness policy. Dark Pulse goes down. I go into Hatterene, and I revenge it with Dark Pulse. And now we're in a 3v3 situation, but it's, I would say, pretty heavily in my favor. At this point, I decided to go for Dark Pulse, since Dark Pulse is doing slightly more damage as he agilities on the final turn a Trick Room. At this point, I decide Draining Kiss. He clicks Thunderbolt. At this point, I think he's trying to go for the full pair, since Terra Blast is doing a bit more. and I do make a small misplay. I could have went for the Draining Kiss here, or I could have went for the Dark Pulse here since it is doing slightly more, and Draining Kiss was a roll to kill, and I did get a low roll. Said this thing lives on 3, and with the full pair he got, or with the pair he got previously, then full pairs me, and my Headering goes down. So not the cleanest interaction, but I do still have Ice Shard on Weavile. So I can just click Ice Shard. And now we're down to a 2v2. And he goes out into Scrafty. And at this point, the only way I see I lose this match is if he predicts me going Iron Moth and goes and clicks like Earthquake if he has it. So at this point, I'm just willing to sack off my Weavile. So I just click triple axle and do a really good chunk of damage as he, I think, tries to predict the Iron Moth from what it looks like his best way of hitting it was Super Fang. But instead, I just click triple axle a second time. I don't miss. I go out. He goes out to Rillaboom. At this point, there is a chance that if I go for like triple axle and I miss the first hit and he clicks like SD and is like Ockerberry or something, this could be an issue. So I decided just to click knockoff since that really just guarantees me the win, even if Grassy Glide kills, which it did. And at this point he can't OHKO Iron Moth. So I just click Terra Dragon, I click Fiery Dance, and we get a close 1-0 victory. And though this wasn't the cleanest game, and I think I could have gone Iron Moth earlier and had a bit more of a few more diff, maybe like a 3-0. I am overall pretty happy with this game. GG's the Mountain Man, and I thought you brought some really cool sets. As a Bronzong fan, I'm glad to see that thing do at least some amount of work. But yeah, uh, your Vegas Corviknights are starting off 1-0 this season in season 6 of JJDL, and I thank you everyone for watching. I guess I should say like and to subscribe since that's what you're supposed to say. Get this engagement up. Share the video with all your friends and family who totally know what Draft League is. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you sometime in the near future. Bye.